Welcome to today's show. My name is John. As always, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, formerly known as iTunes, or follow the links to social media in the podcast show notes. So please subscribe when you're finished listening. You can also go to snarkymoviereviews.com to read notes, bios, and other random movie thoughts. Today's movie is for adults only. Usher the little ones out of the room. I don't want any spoilers. Today's movie is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, 1964, originally made for television. This movie is a beloved Hollywood classic that has been shown every year since it was released. I ain't good at math, but that's like 54 years in a row. There's some really interesting trivia associated with this movie. Robert L. May created the character of Rudolph for a Montgomery Ward's marketing campaign in 1939. That same year, his brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, wrote the song. Marks took the reindeers' names from a public domain poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, which is the stockings were hung and not a creature was stirring and all that poem. Not the first to record the song, country singer Gene Autry took the song to number 1 in 1949. The puppets used in the show were very small. Santa was 8 inches tall, while Rudolph was 4 inches tall. The puppets were filmed in Japan, and when the show was released, people were quite excited by the articulated metal armature that allowed the puppets to be moved. The technology was actually pioneered for King Kong 1933. The voice tracks were recorded in Toronto, Ontario, hence most of the voice actors were Canadian. Buddies, Will Ferrell's costume in Elf, 2003, was modeled after those worn by the elves in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. With elves on our minds, let's jump right into actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Burl Ives gave voice to Sam the Snowman, who was the narrator and singer of songs. Burl was born in Illinois in 1909. Burl started singing early on, and by the time he was in college, he was ready to be a football coach because he was a big guy. He left college in 1930 after 3 years and traveled for a bit. Working in summer stock in the late 1930s led to work on the radio for CBS. Burl became a popular recording artist and had over 30 albums. Burl was in over 30 movies and was really good at playing a bad guy. His movies include East of Eden, 1955, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, 1958, The Big Country, 1958, for which he won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar, A Genie in the Brass Bottle, 1964, The Angry Captain in Ensign Pulver, 1964, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in 1964. But there is one movie I want to call out for special attention. Wind Across the Everglades, 1958. Burl played Cottonmouth, the homicidal leader of a band of bird poachers. Cottonmouth always carried a live cottonmouth with him. This movie also had Christopher Plummer and Gypsy Rose Lee in it, so it's well worth the time spent watching. In 1952, Ives was called before the Un-American House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, and sadly named names to protect his career. Ives died in 1995. Larry D. Mann was the voice of Yukon Cornelius. Larry was born in Canada in 1922. He was an amazing character actor and voice talent. He had 170 film and television credits. The best known of these are Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, 1964, In the Heat of the Night, 1967, and The Sting, 1973. Larry died in 2014. Billy May Richards voiced Rudolph. Billy was born in Canada in 1921. Billy had 32 voice and film credits and worked extensively in the Care Bear series. One movie seemed to be an odd fit on her resume. Jailbait Babysitter, 1977. From the way it's credited in IMDb, I would suspect that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer 1964 was shown in the background of the movie, but I haven't seen it. Yet. Billy died in 2010. Paul Soles was the voice of Hermie, the little elf that wanted to be a dentist. Soles was born in Canada in 1930. Soles was a character actor and voice talent. He had 93 film and television credits. He is noted as being the first person to play Spider-Man when he voiced the 1967 animated series. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Sam the Snowman, Burl Ives, is at the North Pole and begins telling the story of a young reindeer that was born before the big storm. He is telling the story in flashback style, but I don't think this is a film noir. Mr. and Mrs. Reindeer Donner had just had their first offspring, Rudolph. Young Rudolph had a very shiny nose. Some people even say it glows. His mother is fine with the nose. Mama always loves you no matter what.
Mama, he's got a shiny nose.
Shiny? I'd even say it glows.
Well, we'll simply have to overlook it.
Now, how can you overlook that? His beak blinks like a blinking beacon.
That fat judgmental bastard Santa comes by and implies Rudolph might not be able to work on the sled team because of his nose. After Santa leaves, his dad tries to cover his nose with mud. In spite of Rudolph's proboscis, his dad teaches him to fight, how to find food, and other important reindeer stuff. They say the most important lesson is to avoid the abominable snow monster of the North. This monster is mean and hates Christmas and everything to do with Christmas. Spring changes to fall and then to winter. The elves, forced laborers, spend their time making toys. This bunch works mostly in wood. One elf, Hermie, doesn't like to make toys. The head elf is always hollering at him, and it seems like a kind of a hostile workplace. Hermie wants to be a dentist, but he is locked in by his species. Mr. Donner gives Rudolph a plastic nose to cover the glowing one. In April, all the yearlings come out to be inspected by Santa. The young bucks head to the reindeer games. The elves are practicing singing for Santa and Mrs. Claus. I think Santa has gout because he's kind of crabby. There is one tall elf that looks surprisingly like Herbert Anderson. We later found out that this elf was named Hank. The head elf blames the failure of the show on Hermie, who is busy putting teeth in dolls. After he's chewed out, Hermie runs away. The young does show up, and one named Clarice really likes Rudolph. Reindeer coach Comet shows up and starts the buck training. The first event is takeoff. I guess the does aren't allowed to pull the sleigh. Rudolph goes and talks to Clarice. When she says she thinks he's cute, Rudolph flies through the air. He and his friend Fireball start butting heads, and Rudolph's plastic nose pops off. Coach Comet and the other yearlings freak out and start mocking Rudolph.
For crying out loud! All right now, yearlings, back to practice. Oh, no, not you. You better go home with your folks. From now on, gang, we won't let Rudolph join in any reindeer games.
Santa chews out Mr. Donner. They won't let Rudolph join in any reindeer games. Clarice comes and finds Rudolph after he runs away. She says she likes his nose. Clarice's dad comes up and says she can't hang around Rudolph. Rudolph and Hermie meet in the woods and they decide to strike out on their own. They head out into the wilderness and are almost caught by the abominable.
The abominable. He must see your nose. Quick, douse the light.
They live through the night and in the morning meet the greatest character in the film, Yukon Cornelius. No relationship. Yukon has a dog sled and he is prospecting for gold and silver.
Mush! Don't you understand North Pole talk? Mush! What's this? Hey, you get frostbite that away.
Who are you?
Who am I? The name's Yukon Cornelius, the greatest prospector in the North. This is my land, and you know, it's rich with gold. Gold! Gold and silver, silver and gold. Wahoo! Nothing.
Yukon's dog team consists of a Cocker Spaniel, a Poodle, a St. Bernard, a Collie, and a Dachshund, or Wiener dog.
Now I'm off to get my life-sustaining supplies, cornmeal and gunpowder and ham hocks and guitar strings. I'll give you a lift.
The three team up and head for adventure. The abominable is close by. Yukon calls it a bumble. When the monster attacks, they cover Rudolph's nose and run away.
We'll have to outwit the fiend with our superior intelligence. Douse your nose and run like crazy.
Yukon cuts him loose on an ice floe. Yukon knows that bumbles can't swim. Mr. Donner heads out to look for Rudolph, refusing to let Mrs. Donner come along, saying, quote, "This is men's work," unquote. Chauvinistic bastard. No sooner is Mr. Donner gone than Clarice and Mrs. Donner head out looking for Rudolph. Yukon, Hermie, and Rudolph land on the island of misfit toys. The island is ruled by King Moonracer, a black-winged and maned lion. Pretty cool. They are accosted by a Charlie in the box and find out that this is where unwanted toys go to live out their days. Kinda like Boca.
Halt! Who goes there?
Us, of course. Who'd you think?
Oh, well, then that's okay. Okay, who, may I ask, are you?
We're Rudolph and Hermie and Yukon Cornelius, sir. Who are you?
I'm the official sentry of the island of misfit toys.
A jack-in-the-box for a sentry?
Yes, my name is...
Don't tell me. Jack.
No, Charlie. That's why I'm a misfit toy.
The three travelers meet with King Moonracer. He says they can't stay because humans can't hide from their problems.
No, that would not be possible. This island is for toys alone. Unlike playthings, a living creature cannot hide himself on an island.
Good advice. King Moonracer asks them to tell Santa about the island so the toys can find love. Rudolph says if they ever make it back, he will do as requested. King Moonracer says they can stay the night. The group wants to stay together, but Rudolph is worried that his nose will betray their location to the Bumble. Rudolph strikes out on his own. Rudolph spends most of his time getting away from the Abominable. As he grows to an adult, Rudolph realizes that he must go home. When he gets there, the other reindeers his age still give him the business. When he gets to the cave, nobody is there. Santa tells him that his parents and Clarice have been gone for months.
They're gone, Rudolph. They've been gone for months, out looking for you.
Clarice?
She's gone too, and I'm very worried. Christmas Eve is only 2 days off, and without your father, I'll never be able to get my sleigh off the ground.
Then Santa says he is worried about not getting his sleigh off the ground in 2 days on Christmas without Mr. Donner. Wow, Santa. My family and my girlfriend have been missing for 4 months, but I guess it's all about you. As Rudolph heads out, a giant snowstorm hits. Rudolph knows he has to look for his parents in the cave of the Abominable, which oddly enough looks like the cave on Skull Island where King Kong lived. When Rudolph gets into the cave, the Abominable is holding Clarice and his parents are there as well. Rudolph bravely charges the monster with no regard for his own safety. Rudolph stabs the Abominable in the butt a couple of times, and the monster cracks him over the head with a rock. Hermie and Yukon have been looking for Rudolph the entire time he was gone. They came to Christmastown, and Sam the Snowman sent them out after Rudolph. They find Skull Island, and Yukon knows to make pig noises to attract the Abominable. Hermie oinks, and the Abominable comes running out of the cave.
Never knew the Bumble Snow Monster yet who turned down a pork dinner for deer meat. Do your stuff.
Oink, oink.
Put some heart in it. That Bumble's hungry.
Oink, 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 oink.
Yukon drops rocks on the monster from above. Hermie pulls out all of the Bumble's teeth. Yukon gets cocky and starts shoving the Abominable. In the action, Yukon, the Bumble, and all the dogs fall over the cliff and are lost.
He's nothing without his choppers. Let me at him.
Yukon! He's gone! Oh, he's gone!
Hermie and the 4 reindeer go back to the North Pole. Everyone thinks they have been too hard on the misfits. Santa eats a little crow and agrees to rescue the misfit toys. The head elf says Hermie can open a dentist office in the off-season. Just then, there's a knock at the door. Yukon comes in with his dogs and the Bumble. Yukon says he has reformed the Bumble and he wants a job. The Bumble puts the star on the tree. Yukon tells them that Bumbles bounce, and that is why he survived going over the cliff.
Open up! Isn't a fit night out for man nor beast. Here's the man, and here's the beast. Now calm down. Calm down. I reformed this Bumble. He wants a job.
But you went over the side of the cliff.
Didn't I ever tell you about Bumbles? Bumbles bounce.
Mrs. Santa Claus is trying to get her husband to gain weight. It must be an insurance thing. Santa is still cranky, and he hates the elf working song. The weather report comes in, and it seems Christmas will be canceled. Santa goes and tells everyone that Christmas is off. Rudolph's nose shines in Santa's eyes. Santa realizes that with Rudolph leading the team, they can fly through the storm.
Christmas is going to be canceled. There's nothing I can do. This weather. Yeah. Rudolph, please. Could you tone it down a bit? Rudolph, Christmas is not off, and you're going to lead my team.
I am?
Yes, sir. You and that wonderful nose of yours.
My nose, sir?
From what I see now, that'll cut through the murkiest storm they can dish up. What I'm trying to say is, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
It will be an honor, sir.
Rudolph graciously accepts. He's a better man than me. Santa gets ready, and the sled and team of flying reindeers head out. Rudolph's team only has 6 reindeers, although 8 are named in the poem. Yukon strikes it rich with a peppermint mine. Originally, he had been looking for a peppermint mine and not gold and silver. It's still a very nice song. As it gets later on the island of misfit toys, they think Santa has forgotten them.
Well, it's Christmas Eve, but looks like we're forgotten again.
But Rudolph promised we'd go this time.
Oh, guess the storm was too much for them.
At last, they see Rudolph's light leading the team. Santa delivers the broken toys to kids as Sam sings us out with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. In the original release, Santa's trip to Misfit Island was not shown. The company was barraged with angry letters from children about the misfit toys. The company created additional footage showing the island pickup. World famous short summary: success is the best revenge. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I really appreciate you spending the time listening. You can find connections to social media and email on my site at snarkymoviereviews.com, and there are links in the podcast show notes as well. Remember, this show is completely free and independent. All I ask is that you jump over to Apple Podcasts and give me a review. It really helps the show get found. I'm hoping to get 1 or 2 more Christmas episodes out this month before the holidays. Beware the Moors.